There are several interesting similarities and differences between the approach to Jnana Yoga that is used in Shaiva Tantra and the approach that is used in Advaita Vedanta. And they're both legitimate systems. My personal bias is towards Shaiva Tantra, but I will do my best to explain both of those to you. In Advaita Vedanta, the innermost core of reality is called the Atman, and the Atman, or self, is inseparable from universal consciousness, from Brahman. The appearance or illusion of differentiation is called Maya. So all of the bodies, all of the koshas are manifestations of this illusory force that doesn't really exist, but causes us to believe that we are separate individual beings. The Atman, or Brahman, in Advaita Vedanta is conceptualized as immovable, eternal, permanent, and static. It is unchanging. Whereas manifest reality, the illusion of Maya, is dynamic and changing and impermanent. Within Shaiva Tantra, however, there is a slightly different understanding of the Atman, where the Atman is not entirely static. There's one part or aspect of the Atman which could be conceptualized as immovable or solid or eternal in that way, but there are actually 5 different aspects of the divine universal consciousness and energy that we can talk about as representing different qualities of universal consciousness. These are Shiva, universal consciousness; Ananda Shakti, which is the power of unlimited bliss; Ichha Shakti, which is the power of unlimited will or desire; Jnana Shakti, which is the power of omniscience; and Kriya Shakti, which is the power that performs all actions in all universes. So these are called the pure tattvas, the Shuddha tattvas in Shaiva Tantra, and they're different ways that we can experience ultimate reality. There's also, in Shaiva Tantra, another power of universal consciousness called Maya Shakti. So this is the same word, Maya, used in Advaita Vedanta to mean illusion and to refer to the manifest reality that we live in as illusory. But within Shaiva Tantra, Maya is an aspect of Shakti. It is an aspect of the power of consciousness. It is specifically the power of consciousness to create the appearance of differentiation within itself. And this power allows universal consciousness to manifest as unlimited universes across endless time. Within Maya Shakti, according to Shaiva Tantra, there are what are called kanchukas, which are cloaks. They're kind of similar conceptually to the koshas, but they're also a little bit different. These are limited time, limited desire, limited knowledge, limited causality, which means that there's a limited causal body in a limited space, basically, and limited power. So these are ways in which the unlimited essence of universal consciousness contracts in order to create a individual identity that appears mortal and has desires, but those desires are limited, and has a certain amount of knowledge about the world and about memories and things of that nature, but that, again, that knowledge is limited. And that limited individual identity has a particular causal body, a particular set of karmic impressions that are limited to a particular time and space, and which grant that individual being a certain amount of power to perform actions in the world, but that power, again, is limited. So within these kanchukas, the Purusha contracts into manifestation. It is the universal consciousness plus these veils equals the Purusha. Through sharpening the buddhi, through different meditative practices and cultivating sattva and things like this, we can learn to pierce through these veils experientially to directly perceive the unlimited essence of reality. One person who was very influential in teaching Jnana Yoga in relatively recent times was named Ramana Maharshi, who was a great saint who lived in India in the 20th century. When he was 16, Ramana Maharshi had a simulated death experience in which he felt like he was dying, and he said afterwards that he felt all of his vital force flowing into a center on the right side of his chest, across from the physical heart. And he called this center the Hridaya. This term Hridaya means heart, and specifically it means spiritual heart, and it has a long history of usage in Indian literature and philosophy as denoting the center of reality. But within an individual body, this is the locus of the sense of self. So it is where our ego manifests from, basically. And in this simulated death experience that he had at such a young age, Ramana Maharshi felt all of the vital force flowing back into this source of the limited identity and dissolving back into universal consciousness. He called this akrama mukti, which means non-sequential liberation. So this is a very rare, sudden kind of awakening in which Ramana Maharshi was immersed into profound spiritual awakening and enlightenment with very little preparation or spiritual practice. And as a result of following that experience up with a spiritual path and journey that lasted several years and was very interesting if you ever look into his biography, he became a liberated being, and he went into these states of samadhi, of meditative absorption into universal consciousness, where for a period of time he became like he was dead almost. And at one point he was living beneath a temple, and he lost consciousness of his limited mortal identity while he was in samadhi, and there were insects and rodents that were beginning to eat his flesh, and eventually some people found him and took care of him, and over time he came back into his body and was liberated while living. He entered into what is called sahaja samadhi, or natural or effortless samadhi, in which he would go through his daily life immersed in this state of oneness and bliss and insight into the nature of all of reality as a manifestation of universal consciousness. The primary practice that Ramana Maharshi taught is called Atma Vichara, which means self-inquiry. This is a practice in which the awareness of the meditator is traced back to its source. So awareness can become aware of itself. And this is often done through the meditative contemplation of the question, who am I? Or in Sanskrit, ko hum. When direct insight into the spiritual heart is realized or actualized within a practitioner, then that practitioner gains insight into the spiritual equality and unity of all things. There is a passage from the Bhagavad Gita that explains this quite profoundly. It goes, Vidya Vidya Sampane Pramane Gavi Hastini Shuni Chaiva Shvapake Cha Pandita Samadarshana. 5:18. That means the wise ones, equipped with humble insight, viewed the divinity in a priest, in a cow, in an elephant, in a dog, and certainly in a dog-eater as equal. So this is a commentary on how there are different species and different castes in India, where the priestly caste, the Brahmanas, are the most elevated caste in the caste system. And then there are other castes that are quote unquote lower or less revered traditionally in more conservative forms of Hinduism. And there are also outcasts who are outside of the caste system, who are viewed as criminals and as dangerous, and who cannot be touched by members of polite society. So this word dog eater, shvapake, is referring to outcasts. So according to this verse of the Bhagavad Gita, on the most fundamental level of being, all conscious beings are equal. They all contain universal consciousness within them. and they should all be respected with compassion and treated with nonviolence whenever possible. Om.